Yeah, that's good that you have stayed all appreciation. And I will try to be on the positive note today, to be honest, because it's you got a lot of the things like in the 2 days, and I guess there was a lot of deep dive technical stuff, and as well a lot of like AI and maybe a bit of the scary stories. So I will try to be on more positive note. And I do appreciate for you for coming. My name is Victoria. I do work for the Microsoft as a security architect, but the talk, even if I will use some Microsoft technologies like the CM solution, is just for the, like, for the comparison, and because I know the best the insight there, how it works, right? So I cannot comment on the Palo Alto, the snowflakes, and so on. But my goal today is like just to look how do we live in the world where AI is not anymore the hype, and we have seen this like all the 2 days. We got a lot of the AI conversations in the different dimensions, like starting from like how to secure AI threats, and then so on. But at the end of the day, we already know that at least on the large organizations, AI is not anymore the hype. We have the AI agents like for the last 2 years. And actually, to be honest, a lot of the things what we may consider in the security as something new, but actually it was built like 2, 3, 4 years ago based on the machine learning. So today I want to look into into the future, like how we're gonna see the SOC in the future, not far away, like 5 years, but because I don't believe it is possible to predict anything like for the next 2, 3 years. So let's stick with the 5 years, right? And as I mentioned it at the beginning, I want to make this talk a bit light. I'm gonna deep dive on some technical parts, and let me know if you want to see the demos, I will do as well. But technically, I want to look from the perspective of the history to the future. It's like how the security operations evolved over the time and what it meant for the SOC engineers, for the SOC analysts in the last 25 years. And then we're gonna have a bit of the look in the future, which I believe is already here. So how the CM solutions, even if I can call it anymore than CM solutions, they are not. It's like the unified security operation platforms. How do they work, and how the AI has influenced them. And then on that example, we are going to look into one of the parts of the AI, because obviously a lot of the AI functionality, what is incorporated in the SOC solutions, is not accessible for you as a consumer, as a SOC analyst. It just gives you the results, right? But then we start to see like the Copilot things, right? So we got the GitHub Copilot for the developers. We got the Copilots even for, I don't know, for the accounting. Microsoft has released the Copilot, like obviously for everything, like from the Office 365 and you name it. And of course, security didn't stay in the corner. They got their own Microsoft Copilot for the security, with the aim to help the SOC analysts. And this is where we actually can look behind the curtains and see what is inside, how it works. And that could give us as well a bit of the inspiration and understanding what to expect from you as a SOC analyst, what you need to know today and what you need to learn and know tomorrow to succeed in the role. I'm going to do the spoiler alert. I would say AI will not replace SOC analysts, absolutely. That is or you're thinking that we're going to achieve, like in the next 5 years, fully automated security operations? No. At least what I have seen in the conversations between the CISOs, the management is not ready to give the machine to make the decision fully how to protect their environments. So that's not going to happen. But what we are going to see is actually more work for the SOC analysts. And I would call it as a more fun work, comparing maybe with the previous stuff. And to understand, like when I say more fun work, I want to look a bit of the evolution of the security operations. So I will not ask how many of you are like are the SOC analysts, but for you at least, are you like in the SOC? No. Okay, then I guess that history is going to be a bit interesting for you, because if you always wanted to understand what those guys are doing with that crazy CM solution behind the doors, that's what we are going to talk about. So technically, as you know, the security comparing with, it depends with what we compare. Like if we compare with the old age, everything is young, right? But if you compare like even with the IT, the security is young, like it's like 30 years or something. And this is where the CM solutions, or like the SOC centers. SOC stands for the Security Operations Center, right? So in 90s, that's where the security operations centers began to exist. And as always, like with the IT or the security, it usually starts the life like in, I would say, in governmental or the defense organizations. So back in 90s, there was developed like yearly network security monitoring. So that solution was really all about like, you know, having the basic network monitoring, just checking the firewalls, if all is good, like, you know, and some host intrusion detection systems and that stuff. They were very basic. So primarily, it was really focusing on the collecting the logs and what's going on in the firewalls on the network level. And that meant that there was even no dedicated SOC analyst. That role didn't exist, right? So we have now a lot of the different security breeds, right? But then the SOC analyst, it was not a role. It was like just IT admin who was more like network admin who was like looking for that. And to be able successfully to do that, they just needed to know the network protocols, basic firewall configurations, and what are the logs. And then they were looking for the, like, you know, for the potential intrusion and that stuff. In early 2000s, that's where we started to see that that concept was appreciated by the big enterprises and by the bank infrastructures. And they started to look into that as having as their protection mechanisms to, like, just to get the understanding what's going on. So in that time span, we started to see the centralized security monitoring concept, so, and the dedicated SOC solutions. And this is where, like, you know, the CM concept came into the play. And of course, this is where, like, as a financial institutions, we want to be ensured that the security is like good. This is where we start to see 24/7 teams, and then this is where we started to get dedicated security analysts. And to be successful in that role, you just still need to know this concept. So going by the history, you need to remember that all those skills are adding up. It's not replacing each other. It's just like you need to know more over the time. So additionally to this one, you need to understand like, hey, how the tool is operating, and of course some internal incident response procedures, like what to do if the incident happens. Like if you find in the logs that, oh, it looks that someone is trying to scan our network and get inside. What should we do? We need to contact, we need to look firewall configurations, we need to block IP address and so on. So that's what we do, like, or if someone has broken, like got inside. So these are like, you know, where the process begins to be formalized. And of course, already in the 2000s, we had the fantastic stuff called as malwares. So technically, you as a SOC analyst, you need to understand like and bit how the malware functions. And it doesn't ask you to do the, like, you know, the engineering or like looking inside, but you need to understand the concepts. But as with the IT, as you see with all other things, what's happening like in the digital world, it started like to take the speed. So even on early 2000s, we started to see it like the integration. So we started to pull more logs from other security solutions, like not only the EDS. This is where the DLP concept came into the play, like data leakage prevention. So technically, the team started to look as well, like if someone is trying to steal, exfiltrate the data. And in the mid, I would say like, yeah, that was the time on 2005, the compliance came into the play and they said like, hey, now you have the information security management standard, which you must follow. And the fun fact, but in the same year, the Gartner came up with the first quadrant for the CM solutions. It's like, is it the QRadar from the IBM, or what's the best in the breed in the CM world? So technically, that means that the SOC analyst role started to change. There started to become as well the tiers. So the way how the Security Operations Center works, we have several layers, like the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Not to deep dive, but in short, think about like on the tier 1, there are maybe the junior SOC analyst who are just looking on all the incidents coming in and doing the triaging. It's like, oh, it's false positive, or it's real case, and it needs to have the investigation. We can give it up to the next year. So this approach started to come. And to be honest, like, if you look from that perspective, again, in the skills perspective, now the SOC analysts should know a bit more, right? So technically, they need to understand as well a bit of the or have the regulatory knowledge too. And that's where the fun thing begins. Actually, the period from the 2007 to the 2013 is considered as a golden age for the CM solutions because, or for the SOC evolution, because this is where, like I mentioned in the previous, early in 2007 somewhere, DLP came in. Then by that time, we also got like here in 2010 and going on onward, we got our advanced persistent threats coming up, right? So technically, during that period, I think during like 2010 and to the 2011. APT type of the attacks, like the targeted attacks, rise it up like almost on the 81%. So now this is where like smaller, larger, medium-sized businesses start to realize they need to have the SOCs, right? So, and this is where as well the managed security service providers came into the play. So maybe in your case, you even don't have in your company SOC team. It's outsourced. And the company who is doing like all that work for you, they are called the managed security service providers. And this is where they started to provide such services. So technically, they started to give you SOC as a service. So they were just collecting from you logs and using their own skills of doing all the triaging and taking care, so to say, right? So as well, like this is where the first signs of the SOAR came in. If you heard about this abbreviation, I'm trying to avoid a lot of the abbreviations because I don't want to get you sleepy. But technically, the SOAR is Security Orchestration Automation Response. So it's all about as well how do you automatically respond on some events, like if the incident, like for example, if you have detected the virus which infected the computer, like, sorry, not the virus, like, but yeah, the phishing attack is happening as an example, right? And you want to contain the machine, you can automate that process or like block the user automatically, right? So that is a concept. So that's where it started, like, you know, to evolve. And that meant as well for you as a SOC engineer or the analyst, you need to start to be a bit more advanced, and you need already to look into the forensic investigation, because now we are talking about the advanced attacks. And as well, like if you want to be on the edge, like, or working with the next generation security operation centers and get into the concept of SOAR, you need to have a scripting skills, like how do you write and automate. And if that would not be enough, like since 2015, somewhere around that, it's like it's the date, we the CM solution vendors, they see that it became like a lot of the logs coming, a lot of the information is coming in, right? And now we suddenly have the cloud environments like the Amazon, Azure, Google, they started to creep in. And then as well, like you want to look for the security there as well. So technically, there are coming a lot of the signals. And CM vendors, they understood that, until this momentum, it was all a lot of reactive approach. So there's an incident, let's work. When we introduced the SOAR, we started around 2014-15, there was as well introduction of proactive hunting. It's like, let's look and start proactively hunting for the potential intrusions, like if there are something, right? So this is where we start to get the SOAR and everything, and it becomes more proactive approach. On the top of that, here started like I said, there's begun a bit of the alert fatigue, which means like there are a lot of the things are coming in, and the rule-based search is not working anymore. It's like investigation, where usually like rule-based. And that's there was introduced as well UEBA, which stands for the User Behavior Analytics. So technically, as we look, what it means like the SOC, Security Operations Center, with their CM solution, like QRadar, I don't know, you name it, like Splunk, they start to look with solutions, they start to look on the user behavior or the entity behavior. And if it causes anomaly, that means that's something wrong with that user, and it may potentially be compromised, right? So this is like quite light explanation of the UEBA. And of course, like we got the cloud, and we got the bring your own device stuff as well. That meant that we need to monitor as well, like the employees' private computers, collect all the signals there. In the cloud environment, there was a lot of other security solutions introduced in the parallel, like cloud security brokers, which means technically that when you sit at your work computer and you want to go to the OneDrive or to go to any social network, like let's take the Facebook or YouTube, the CASB Cloud Access Security Broker is looking on whose all cloud solutions are they safe for you? Are you coming there? It's like you and so on, right? So technically it monitors the shadow IT, what's called. And of course, when you started to put the workloads in the cloud, you need to protect them. And this is where the cloud security posture management came in, cloud workload protection came in, and you need to collect all those signals. So all of those signals are coming there. What it means for the SOC analyst. It's not enough that you need to know networking, now identity, now you need to be good at the scripting, but apparently you need to understand what the Azure or the Amazon is, how it works, right? So as you can see over the time, it's like the skills are like evolving, and the SOC analyst should become more versatile. And of course that means that actually in the SOC teams, what they started to have, dedicated SMEs or the subject matter experts, right? So the one SOC analyst is quite good, for example, in the cloud environments, another is quite good on others. And here we are today here, and that means like right now we have a pretty advanced SOCs or the security operations and pretty advanced CM solutions. Which are actually like powered by I would start carefully by saying the machine learning, and then in later years, like in the last 2-3 years, as well we have the artificial intelligence, we have the AI stuff. Long story short, that means that now there are even more skills required for the SOC analyst. It may sound like, oh, AI is going to make our life easier, yes, but at the same time, you need to get a bit of the understanding of the AI as well, how it works. So if we look on the one of the CM solution and try to calculate how much the machine learning or the AI is incorporated, then we can check it just each area of the security operations center. So if we look from the threat detection and analysis, we're going to see that, as I already mentioned, so the CM solutions like the Sentinel or like, for example, from the Palo Alto solutions against snowflakes or the Splanks, so they do the threat detections, and they are powered by like the machine learning algorithms, which are checking like if there are some anomalies in the behavior. That's one thing. And then as well, web, which I already mentioned. And then the automated response. So technically, what is happening if we detect a real threat? This is as well is powered by the AI. So let me give the example. Like if you're familiar with the Defender XDR system, it has what is called the threat disruption. So what it means, like XDR platform identifies that one of the workstations, there is a user, and potentially that user has been compromised. And it sends all those signals, and with the attack disruption system, it just deactivates the user in Active Directory, and the user like needs to go like to the IT, fix the issues, and then so on for the investigation. And it happens automatically, and it's powered by the AI. And of course, I already mentioned the security orchestration automation response. At the beginning, it was a lot like a bit of, I would say, if I may call it a bit of the manual, but now it is capabilities are as well are powered by the AI. And of course, like, okay, once we have identified the incident, how do we prioritize which is high, which is medium, which is low? And that is what the SOC analyst should do as a decision based on their knowledge, like the business context and all the risk signals what they got. Now you can do it again. Most of the CM solutions we do provide with based on the AI. The threat hunting, that area has been touched as well, like with the AI. Like, for example, in the Sentinel, I had the case where like the company was even having the data scientists in the security operations center. What they were doing, they were using the notebooks, like Jupyter notebooks, and they were writing the advanced hunting procedures just based on their business context. It's like what is relevant like for their business. Like for example, if someone is trying to steal the information, like on that stuff. And again, this is where like the AI could be utilized in today's world. And of course, like in the last 2 years, you already have seen the copilots, a lot of stuff, right? So that's where we're gonna talk about a bit more in the details. And technically, the Security Copilot integrations came. And there are other helpers, like even If you look on the CM solution, it even can come now back to you and say like, oh, I have identified how your SOC works, Security Operations Center works, how the analysts are working, and by the way, in the similar size of the company and the similar size of the business, they do these things better. Maybe you need to improve it in your Security Operation Center as well to be able to get more efficient work for the analysts. So technically, these type of the suggestions are coming. So how does it look in the practice? All of these things, what I mentioned, I will take it in reality based on, again, that's not the sales pitch. I just want to take it as an example. All of these type of the functionalities, they in a one-to-one or another extent, they exist in different products, as I mentioned, like the Splunk, the Sentinel, and so on. But all of these things are now existing in the thing what is called the Unified Security Operation Platform. So, not to make the things more confusing, even 2-3 years ago, we used to have like, yes, we have the CM solution, like Sentinel, which is just collecting all the logs from the cloud, collecting like the logs from the infrastructure. And then we got the XDR solutions, which were focusing like on the things of the end user, Office 365, and that stuff, right? But over the time, it was, like in the Microsoft case, it was clear that the SOC analysts, when they need to investigate the case, like for example, the user was compromised through the phishing email, usually you would go and hunt it in the XDR platform, like in the XDR portal. But apparently that user had a right in the Azure, like in the cloud. And to look if there is something there, you need to go back to the Sentinel, to the CM solution, just because the investigation was happening there. So they were spending a lot of the time in between the portals. And that is a common problem across the industry. A lot of the security tools, there's no single pane of the glass. And that's where, if you even take another organizations or another security vendors, they kind of sell similar things like XDR one, the CM solution another. And the security operation centers, they go into the future, and the vendors, they go in the same future of unifying these. So just to explain, and that was introduced by the Microsoft like last year with the approach that there's no going to be there's gonna be still the separate Sentinel, there's gonna be still the Defender XDR, but the SOC analysts as well have the opportunity to use and fully utilize everything under the one portal, like securitymicrosoft.com, what's not. In the one portal, they can hunt everything in one place. On the top of that, as similarly as if I may do this comparison, with all functionality what we looked before from the AI, they have introduced as well the Copilot, the helper for the SOC analyst, because obviously you have a lot of the challenges, like as you already noticed it, the broad skills requirements, and as well as you have a plenty of the tables. I think Roberto, on his previous talk, when he was looking at a bit from the AI researcher perspective, he mentioned a plenty of the schemas. So technically, as a SOC analyst, you need to know the product. Like it could be the Splunk, or it could be like the Microsoft Sentinel or XDR, and they store the information like in the tables or the schemas. And you need to know all of these schemas to be able to write the queries. So that's another step. You need to know, in Microsoft case, in the Sentinel or XDR, you need to know custom query language, which is like SQL style, where you are writing the queries towards those schemas. And that could be quite hard sometimes, especially for the junior SOC analysts coming in, right? And as well, how to prioritize. So the SOC analysts need to know all of those stuff. And the Copilot was introduced to help with that stuff. The way how it works, actually, it comes with the several capabilities. We're going to talk about them in a minute. But technically, it works as in, like, if you're using the ChatGPT, I guess all of you using like ChatGPT, Perplexity, any other favorite chatbot, right? So, there's the prompt engineering. So the users like submitting the prompt, the ChatGPT stuff happening behind the scenes. Like I'm just making a joke, but technically the OpenAI model is behind the scenes. It processes the prompt and gives the result. If we go a bit more in technical like details, so SOC analyst can do this prompting from either like from the dedicated website or dedicated interface for the Microsoft Security Copilot, or can come it from this unified platform or through the XDR or the Sentinel. And technically it can write like and say, hey, can you show me all incidents related to this entity, like it could be the user ID. Or can you write the custom query language script for me to select top 10 incidents, I'm just making up. And it converts, so it technically it receives the prompt, then it goes and collects all information, like from the CM solution, like in this case from the Sentinel, from Microsoft XDR, threat intelligence, and the Intune. Intune is for the device management. So it collects from the information from all of the available log resources, goes and then sends that information like to large language models, and then gets the response. And as well then if there are some plugins enabled, because what you can do, you can configure like the plugins with the ServiceNow, for example, create the ticket in the ServiceNow. It utilizes those plugins for the post-processing. And then it sends the response as well, like to back to the security product, so back to your interface. So that is like quickly how it works. And technically, like if you look inside of the one case, if you as a SOC analyst, you open quite, I would say, quite comprehensive incident, which is like the multi-stage incident. You can see there are like a lot of the alerts which have been collected and made as an incident, and like there's a lot going on, especially for the junior SOC analyst. Then what Copilot as well can do, besides of just answering on your questions and helping you with the KQL, it out of the box comes up to you with like, let me provide you the incident summary, explain you in the human language what is happening here, what the heck is happening on the left place, like, So technically, it gives like the summary, explains, and as well, it gives you the guided response. So that's where we're going to spend a bit of today's time. What the guided response means, it also gives you the offer what to do next. And then, okay, you looked here, it's like, yeah, the suspicious remote session. If you see there's, for example, there has been detected suspicious PowerShell file, you even can go to the Copilot and say like, hey, can you do, like, can you look inside of that file? What's that file is doing? And this is just as a standalone experience. If we will have a time, I will as well, if you're interested, I can show it later in the live. But technically, you can just go, as you can see, and ask the same things like, hey, how can you help? Similar experience what you have done in the private life with all the ChatGPTs and that stuff. So technically, the Copilot primarily cases are to give you the summary in the human readable way, do the reverse engineering of the files if you get interested to understand like how like that script was running, what exactly the steps it did, which is fantastic for the juniors who are not good at the scripting, and they just seem like there was none, and now you need to understand, so it even explains what happens. And you as well can ask, like I already mentioned, it can as well write the KQL or the queries for you if you need to get more information. And it does the impact analysis, and then it looks, provides you the guided response. So technically, that's where we're gonna look inside. All over the place, like if you look on the Copilot, as I already mentioned, it's powered by the OpenAI model. The two models that are in the place. The one, the OpenAI, and another one is a bit more Microsoft, so it's Microsoft custom, tailored to the security. The first one is again as well tailored to the security, but technically it was using like the version number 4. The guided response is a completely different story. It's a bit. So technically, as I mentioned, what the guided response gives for the SOC analyst, it helps you to triage, like to understand how important or how critical the event is, and like, or what you need to do next. It looks, helps you with the investigation, remediation, and containment. How does it look in life like? So technically, like I said, it helps. It starts with the proposal. How do you triage? Like on the right side, it immediately gonna say like, hey, you know, first of all, you need to classify the incident, and based on the things what I have seen before, similar incidents, it may look that this one is not the false positive. It's positive. So first of all, make a decision. Is it like the false positive or not, or it's true positive? If I will not deep dive in the complexity world of the SOC operations, there's one problem, like it's always clear how to define the true positive and the false positive. Banning positive, that means like it's, yeah, it happened, but it's informational, right? And every time when the SOC analyst makes a decision, this guided response actually learns from that. And what we have seen before that, that makes sometimes the troubles to do the suggestions, because there's no good standard like when the people are putting the banning positive, right? So technically this is what the guided response gives you, and then it gives you as well the containment and remediations, like, hey, what should you do to fix the issue? Like in this case, he's like suggesting that you need to isolate the device because it's obviously it's infected, right? And you can do it like by just clicking the button, and as well like you can send you should send the email to the user that if you need to get more, I think it was on the triaging process, like, yes, sorry, on the triaging process, it suggests you to contact the user. The fun fact, per today, you even don't need to write the email. You can just copy paste. It writes the email for you. And if you don't want to contact them by the email, you can contact like by the Teams and that stuff. So yeah, once we have done the triaging, the guided response helps you as well, like to contain. And the last thing, what it does, it looks in the history and says like, yeah, I looked at your incident, and by the way, in our history for the last 3 months, I think it was like 30 days, oh sorry, it's 180 days, so it's 6 months, right? Half a year. In the half of a year, we have seen maybe this type of the incidents as well, similar incidents. So that brings the food for thought for you as a SOC analyst and for the proactive hunting. So that was a similar incident. And to be honest, this is a quite huge helper for the SOC analyst. So technically, once you start to work with that, it becomes like as your Copilot, as like, you know, ask the developers once they started to use the GitHub Copilot, would they foresee future without that one? I doubt, right? So it helps you. But now let's look from the perspective of like, you know, of me, who's developing that solution for you. It's like how it's developed. There are some challenges. So technically, when you create these guided responses, there are the problem, like the complexity of the security incidents. There are the 10 of the 1,000 rules, like detection rules coming all the time. And there are like, these incidents, they can vary significantly in the complexity. And it's quite hard to make the accurate prediction. It's like, or give you even accurate guidance how to work with that. And there's expectancy that this guide or the copilot who is giving you the guided steps in the triaging, in containment, is going to be quite precise, sorry, it's like precise, and as well gives you the good. As well, it's gonna catch up the all relevant threats. It's not so big deal when you have a just false positive, but it's big deal that apparently it marks as a false positive, but it was a real threat, right? So you don't want to have it from the guided response. And another thing, think about all of those products, or all of your current environment in your company. How many logs they are producing per day? And now it multiplied, So then the question is like how the guided response is going to deal with that. Because there are thousands of, or the millions of the incidents, or like the signals are coming in. And the last is adaptability to the SOC preference, because every SOC operates in a different way. And as well on the top, they have their business context. So it's not easy task to create the good guided response. And of course, it needs to continuously to learn, because the threats are not static. Every day, the attackers, they find a new way, how to try to break you. And that's where the Copilot guided response team, when they started to develop, they, of course, looked on the AI. And they said, good, we need to look into how we can utilize all the LLMs, obviously, right? And you know what we're going to do this time? We actually not only try to build that architecture and use it in the Copilot, but we are going to share it. So Microsoft has released this in-depth paper, which details all the architecture for the few reasons. So they, first of all, did not release only this deep dive paper. If you are a data scientist, I suggest you to look into it. It's fantastic read, to be honest. But they as well released the data set. It's a real data set which contains around 33 entity types. So entity means user, computer, IP, and other things, right? But it contains around almost 2 million of the alerts and around million of the annotated incidents with all the triage labels. Obviously, it's obvious, and all of these data set is a real world data set. So it was released with the aim for the two reasons. The one is to spark the conversation, like how do you build the guided response for the security, right? For the security analysts. Another thing is this one for anyone who wants to play and try to build their own, this type of the AI agents, for example, right? So the data set is available on the Kaggle, and it's not updated, so it's a static, right? So, but it's a good data set for researchers to study the real world security incidents. So technically, how it looks inside. I promise not to go deep dive into the AI science, because obviously it's not the main point here. But technically, I will try really to explain it as for the 5 years old person. Technically, that deep dive paper explains the 3 pipelines. The guided response is having the 3 pipelines. The first one, which runs every week, so it's running weekly. It trains the grade and the action recommendation models by using all the SOC telemetry, the historical SOC telemetry, to provide all these tailored responses. So this pipeline is in the charge to look into the Azure data lake, collect all the not the logs, but the incidents, then do all the, I would say like pre-processing and like, the massaging, I would call it like this, and prepare like, to train the two models, right? On the outcome you get the two models. And then the second one is the inference pipeline. This one is operating every 15 minutes, and this pipeline is in the charge for the for action recommendations for the incoming incidents. And additionally, this one is in the charge as well to provide this, what you saw as a similar incidents, right? So. And the last but not least one, the embedding pipeline. That one is running every 30 minutes. And what it does, it goes historically to the data until the 180 days of all of the incident embeddings which were generated previously, right? And it allows them, again, to find all these similar recommendations and all of the stuff. Technically, this solution is deployed in each region, and this one, when you ask from the data perspective, it looks on your SOC. That's what allows to build like really customized recommendations in your case. So technically, it learns from your SOC environment, from your unified security operation platform, or I would call it Sentinel and XDR. If you're interested, like from the deployment infrastructure, it is leveraging the Synapse-based PySpark cluster. As I mentioned already, it's built in each geographical region for the privacy reasons. And then, like as I mentioned, there is Azure Data Lake databases, Synapse as a backend. They try to utilize as much as possible PySpark, like just not like, go less into the Python stuff. And there's the problem is with the Synapse that there's no out-of-the-box good monitoring for the model monitoring and the versioning, so we have created the separate infrastructure. That paper goes deep dive, and it addresses as well the challenges what we have seen, especially with the biggest data sets, and it explains specifically on that train pipeline how we overcome that one. So as I mentioned, that paper is like with the aim to spark these conversations, like, and maybe inspire others to build more these guided response agents, I would call it. So, okay, I'm the SOC analyst. I'm not the data AI stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Good, but is it effective at the end of the day? That is quite of the question. Microsoft has done the studies. Let me just skip all that stuff. Technically, they did the two researches. This is one specifically tailored for the SOC analyst, but in the same place where that previous paper is published at Arxiv. There's the second paper where they have done the studies towards the IT admins. It's like how much this Copilot is useful for the IT admins, like who are working with the identity or the Intunes, like they're just in Enter ID, identity provider world, or the Intunes. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, they showed similar results. So the way how we did, they collected the two groups. The one is like the advanced guys, like security professionals, and the security novices. And that second research, they did the same. The fun fact, they actually collected them in, I think this is the freelancing platform Upwork. So if you want to participate in such researches, Upwork is a place to go. But in overall, there are obviously the positive answers, because who doesn't want to have the helper who understands you, right? But for me, what I find quite interesting is it is bigger helper for the security novices. So for the security analysts who are like I think 2 year or less experience, and the same result was actually for the IT admins. It was more effective for them, and it was more effective in the broader scope. It's like when you try to ask more concrete stuff, like just do this, yeah, it helped. But if you, for example, you need to exercise some investigation where you don't know where to start, it showed the more effective results. So technically, it gives kind of the understanding that whose copilots were coming to stay. And the next step is like, okay, we need to learn how to coexist, and maybe actually not coexist, but use it to our benefit. And there are the 3 ways. I would say the one is become quite efficient in them. The second is become very good at them in terms of even building add-ons, because with copilots like this one is supporting the plugins and the connectors, which means that you can connect more sources, or you even can write the plugins. Or like in this case, this is, by the way, the suggestion from the MSSPs. Remember at the history, at the beginning, I mentioned that there are the companies who are doing the security operation centers for you. And they were early adopters, and they already now 6, 7, 8 months where they're using amongst their customers. And that's what they have learned. First of all, they got pretty similar results in terms of the effectiveness in their SOC team, but then they learned as well as to be able to utilize it at full efficiency. These are the steps. But for me as a SOC analyst, yeah, this lays out the path where I need to go, right? So another thing is, if you want to become even more advanced, you as well can write the prompt books. So the Security Copilot comes as with templates of some prompts, but you as well can create your own prompt books. So if you want to evolve as a SOC analyst in your role, technically that means it's not only about the prompt engineering, but as well getting quite good in writing the prompt books and sharing, and then writing the plugins. Of course, it may sound a bit scary again, it sounds that the AI just came to replace us. That's not a thing. And then the second fear is, how do I learn everything right now? And on the top of the evolution, what I mentioned, I didn't mention another thing is it's not only the cloud environments what are now in the SOC teams, in the SOC center, sorry, where the SOC analyst needs to have the expertise, but there are as well the OT, the manufacturers, right? So the IoT and the IT logs, there is the synergy happening, there is a separate deep dive topic, but long story short, the security operations centers start to become in the charge of overseeing the security of the manufacturing lines. We are collecting all those logs as well from there, because there's automation happening there. So if we look now from all of these perspectives, it's oh, that means that I would say there are plenty of the fears. The one fear for you is I need to learn a lot. Another fear for you is why should I learn? Because the company may say there's so much advanced AI, I can just hire the junior SOC analyst and we're going to use the Copilot and we'll be cool. I mean, why? Yeah, but that's not the case. Because if you look on the current challenges, and when I say the current challenges, I mean 2025 challenges, which are coming already from 2024, is that it's still there's a still shortage of the experts. That's a huge problem. There's a still problem with all of these advanced things what we look today. There's a still problem with all of these alert fatigue. And then I mentioned the security orchestration automation response. And if you remember, it was like at least 10 years in the play. But to be honest, Gartner at some point said that SOR came and SOR died because there's some other problems with the automation due to the complexity of the environments, complexity of the signals, and so on. As a result, the teams or the SOC teams with whom I worked, or with the customers with whom I worked, it's still the problem. There's still limited automation. People are, so the SOC teams were still not automating a lot of the stuff. Just even not using the AI, but the classical playbooks what we have, they don't automate. And of course, like the compliance burden, I mean, not to go far away, it's like, yeah, we have these GDPRs, everyone knows. But there are for the financial institutions, this year, 17th January, if you do, since 17th January, if you do operate as a financial institution in European Union, now apparently you must be compliant with the DORA. How many of you have heard the DORA? We can speak about that. And then as well, there is a NIC2 or NIS2 and other standards, right? And that is like, there's a compliance burden goes on the SOC teams as well. And another problem is like, we already looked on the breadth of the skills. And the threats were not going away, we're just keeping evolving, because not only us, we are very smart to use the AI, but the threat actors are using the AI, and again, during these 2 days, obviously, you heard a lot how you can abuse the AI itself from the security perspective, right? So the threats are evolving. But I like to say that the hard times creates the new opportunities, right? So technically, first of all, you will not stay without the job. At the beginning, like I said, it's going to be a bit more motivational. It's just to show how many opportunities there are. And you saw even on the Copilot case on the architecture, and as well, like there are plenty of dependency on the SOC analysts. Even to make the AI more efficient, there should be the SOC analysts in the first place, and the smart ones who are providing these guidelines as well for the co-pilots, because every time when you are answering convey recommendations, as I showed on that architecture, every time when you say like when it says, can you triage it, and you say yes, it's true, positive, it learns from that. That means that AI is dependent on the SOC analyst, and the SOC analysts are dependent on AI. So if you are stepping into this field, it doesn't mean that you need to be expert in everything. You can be highly skilled in the one or the two areas. But if I would go and say, like, if you start from today, pick the 2 skills. One of them, AI and the prompt engineering mastery, that is must-have, right? So I think, like, if we look back on the industrial revolution, right, then the automation came in the manufacturing, and the people started just to learn how these pipelines are working, right? We started to get more and more engineers who needed to fix them and so on. The same is happening here with the AI in the security field. We just need to live alongside and actually use to our advance. And coming into the VIS market, it's quite good to know how to efficiently utilize the prompt, and even later to become as an expert in AI, to be able proactively to write the prompt books for the juniors or write the plugins and so on. The cloud expertise, it helps a lot, because how over the time you can see that on-premise environment is shrinking. We just go in the cloud, we go into the Azure, we go to the Amazon. So knowing the concepts of the cloud security and knowing one of the clouds very well helps a lot. But the most important is to have is adaptability to the always security diversity. So technically, stay agile all the time, learn the things, like on the conferences, or just do own research, or utilize the same AI for the upskilling. Again, it helps a lot. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, even the C-level or the CISOs, the Chief Information Security Officers, they said no, there's not going to be in the next 5-10 years the time when I will fully outsource the decision to my CM solution or the Unified Security Operation Platform. There's still going to be the human who will make the decisions, right? And then again, for the SOC analysts, I would say the future is the brighter than you would expect. Yeah. With that, in respect of the time as well, I want to thank you, and I wish you the fantastic evening, and thank you for me. Yes.